Dawson, Harper, Reimers, generally known as Dawson. 1943. Dad and my elder brother were away in the army, and I went to work and looked after the family and dug the trenches and things like that that we had to have. And then Dad came home ill, and then I went in to enlist. It was up in amongst where they had the Italian prisoners of war in lower New South Wales. I went there as a driver, and I drove all through there. And after that, we come down to Sale, and there I got a message one day by phone to report to the Jungle Warfare Training School up in Canungra. Yeah, and I spent a couple of months there doing the training. One night the big ship came in with the lights off and put us on and took us out in the darkness. And went up to New Guinea. That was the first stop. We were supplying the troops up in the jungle. Most of the Japanese were in the high jungle.
And do you remember how you were feeling when you heard over the radio that the war was over?
Hey, bang, 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 bang. Firing off all your bullets. They were still fighting us. And it happened at night. We heard about that at night. Yeah. And I happened to be on guard duty at that night. They wanted volunteers for Japan, and I volunteered to go into the occupation force. I was like a kid, really. We couldn't carry more than a couple of rounds in the rifles that we had.
Is that because of rationing?
That was some of it, but they didn't want to start another war. Yeah. Once we got in there, we saw all the little kids marching along. When the band went anywhere, they marched along behind them waving flags. Our people, all the old fellas were still out in the jungle. And when they started coming back to Hiroshima, we went down there and had a look around them. And I looked up in the sky, and in my mind's eye, I saw this big plane fly over, and then looked down at the devastated city, and thinking that most of the people that were there were killed, women and children. So that turned me around. I didn't hate. I eschewed the word hate. I don't say it except to tell people not to do it. Anyway, that it settled down after a while, and they, started getting out of their tropical trousers and things like that, and putting on collars and ties. People with black suits and collar and ties. Yeah. When we came back and got demobbed in Royal Park and given a month's leave, that we'd accrued 2.5 years in Japan without a leave home. They were sending home the wounded and ex-prisoners of war first. When we went home, I went on a self-march sort of thing, just settled down up into the hill in the mountains, up in the snow. I did a month of that, and then I came back and went to work. And then, of course, the fighting with the Russians, or the fear of the Russians, I went straight back and I re-enlisted. Late 47.
47, yeah.
47. I was a trained soldier. See, the very fact that I walked up into the mountain when I came home, I was in the 5th Battalion, Victorian Scottish Regiment. I love God and my country. I will honour the King. This was in the quadrangle at school when I was about that high. I love God and my country. I will serve the King and chiefly obey my parents, teachers and the law. In the quadrangle with no shoes on in the winter's day. And that lived with me ever.